Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be learning about extending the new Relic platform via integrations and APIs. And you're going to hear about 5 announcements of new features. I hope we keep track of them. Now, by now, you've seen this a few times. I was going to sing it to you, but you all know the lyrics, so let's just move on to the exciting stuff. So, extending the platform, it means using New Relic's integrations, APIs, to really go beyond what we offer out of the box and get a connected, integrated, and even more powerful experience. That's what platform is. And our platform is broad, it's easy, and ubiquitous. You get all 3 of them. When I say broad, I'm talking about all New Relic products, or almost all. Almost all of our products have very capable APIs, and the few that don't, well, stay tuned. I can't tell you any more, except stay tuned. You can connect these APIs to more or less everything, certainly everything in your software stack, to most of the things in your business. Maybe you can't connect them to your toaster, but we'll see an interesting way of connecting them to, say, your thermostat in a minute. And you can do this to get increased visibility, increased awareness, increased monitoring, which in turn leads to improvements in customer experience and business results. You could do this because the platform is easy. It uses standards-based, RESTful APIs that speak JSON and, if you must, XML. You could use these APIs for data and configuration. You could discover all of these APIs via our API Explorer. And all of this is free. The platform capabilities don't represent any additional pricing over our normal products. And this delivers ubiquity. As you integrate into your business, you'll find that the data, the monitoring, the configuration becomes increasingly visible and useful across the New Relic platform. And for example, later in this talk, we'll hear about how MongoDB delivered ubiquity through their integration. Now, let's start with the out-of-the-box integrations. We've got at least 14 for Insights. The last time I checked, these slides are a little old, so we may have more by now. For example, the Electric Imp integration makes it easy to collect Internet of Things data and visualize it in New Relic Insights, analyze it in NRDB. Here is one of my colleagues' thermostats being monitored by an Electric Imp device in his house. And it looks like the humidity outside on a foggy day is a lot more than the humidity inside. We have over 69 last time I counted, Connect-style integrations. Connect integrations are about getting data out of your New Relic account, adding notification and alerting systems, enabling SSO, and much, much more. For example, the Blaze Meter integration takes New Relic performance data and brings it into the Blaze Meter load testing as a service UI, so you could see load test data alongside performance data. This is Blaze Meter's UI we're looking at, but New Relic data. Finally, we have plugins, perhaps the most aware, the part of our integration platform that people are most aware of. You heard about the power of plugins this morning for the healthcare.gov project. There's over 141 of them, plus there's over 600 that are developed and used privately that aren't being shared publicly today. For example, the F5 plugin lets you monitor an F5 load balancing cluster. And here's how it looks for one of New Relic's own F5 instances. New Relic's agents don't provide native visibility into your load balancers, but with an easy-to-use plugin, you've got it today. So that's over 220 off-the-shelf integrations ready for you to try and use today. No matter what's in your technology stack, I'm certain you'll find at least one of these that works for you right away. Now, let's shift gears. That's all about what's available off the shelf, written and shared by the community, but I'm guessing you're going to get excited about making some of your own. And the best place to learn how is with our API Explorer. The API Explorer is a UI on top of our API. APIs can be sometimes a little challenging to use because you need to do it at the command line or write code. Well, how about just hop into our API Explorer at api.newrelic.com and discover the breadth of our API capabilities. You can learn the call and response structure, understand required and optional parameters, and you can make API calls right there in the API Explorer without writing a single line of code, without opening up your terminal or any other setup. Now, do be aware, API calls made by the API Explorer are real API calls against your real New Relic account. So if you make the call, the new call that says, say, delete or modify an alert condition, you really are doing so. Now, first announcement. All New Relic APIs are now in the API Explorer. Previously, most of them were there, but some of them were only in our docs site. You could see them along the top there. We've added new links. So you could find all of them, or at least all of the RESTful APIs, web APIs. Second announcement is that the New Relic alerting product now has a comprehensive API, so many new endpoints and functionality that the left nav here of the API Explorer has become extremely long. Here's a small slice of what must be 3 feet of left nav. We'll fix that soon, but what this means for you is a lot more power and capability to extend the New Relic platform and build it into your own systems. Now, to use an API, you need credentials, an API key, which brings me to announcement number 3, our brand new API keys page. You'll notice we try to name things simply, sensible URLs. The API keys page is your one-stop shop for all of your API keys. Some of them you'll manage here. In other cases, you'll see links to where you can get them. And announcement number 4, a new type of API key, the admin user's API key. Previously, there was just one API key per account. You used it for all API calls. It was shared by all users. But with the new alerting API, we found there was the need for a new type of key that was specific to admins. Most alerting features are only available to admins in our UI, so we provide a new API key that is specific to individual admins so that they can use API features in our API. Now, the list of admin user API keys starts out like this. You can see in this sample account, there's a few admin users, and it's empty. It's blank when you first arrive. There are no keys. I'll create a couple keys, and in this case, I'm currently logged in as owner number 2, or it says mine next to there. And I see a little show key next to my key, and if I click that, I get to see my own key. Now, I can't see any other admin's keys, of course, because other admins need to have separation from me. I should not be able to impersonate them by accessing their keys or credentials. So let's put it all together. The API Explorer, the Alerts API, and admin user API keys. We'll start out at the API Explorer, api.newrelic.com. And from this drop-down menu at the top, I'm going to pick my own admin user's API key because I want to try out the new Alerts API. I'll then scroll down the left side and pick the Alert Policies List endpoint. And I see this helpful page about a little bit about how it works, the parameters that are available, whether they're optional or required, and Send Request button. I'm going to click that Send Request. My API key has already been filled in. And there we go, a response from the API. This is exactly what I'd get if I made this call via any other method, but I could see it here in my browser to help me understand, that's how the response works. Oh, right, OK. And so one of these is called Acme Commerce. Maybe I'd want to filter down to just that response. So I'll take the Acme Commerce part, put it back in the filter there at the bottom. In the middle there, you can see that we're auto-generating curl code. So if you want to just take the curl code and copy and paste it into one of your scripts, you're good to go. Or if you want to collaborate with a colleague on these API calls, copy that URL at the top. The URL includes all of the request parameters that you've configured down below. It doesn't include your key, because that's too sensitive to put up there, of course, and it shouldn't be shared, but it includes everything else. Give that URL to a colleague, they'll open it up, it'll go straight to this page with all the parameters filled in, ready for them to choose their own key and send their own request. Now, you've learned how the New Relic API has broad capabilities, how it's easy to use. MongoDB, a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader in operational databases, recognized that extending the New Relic platform was an ideal way to deliver MongoDB monitoring and flexible analytics. Sam, will you come on up and tell us a bit more about what you did?
Thanks, Cooper. Hi, everyone. My name's Sam Weaver. I'm product manager at MongoDB. Pleasure to be here. It's my first time in San Francisco. Born in London, live in New York, and actually walked a block up the hill this morning. Felt like I'd summited Everest by the time I reached up here. So I guess you guys are all here because you want to build something, right? And that's kind of what we wanted to do at MongoDB, is we wanted to build something in particular with New Relic. And so by a show of hands or Mexican wave or something, who is using MongoDB or has used MongoDB? Right, yeah, quite a few of you, great. So essentially, I won't have to spend too long on this. I'm just going to quickly highlight what MongoDB is or was designed to do, right? It's highly performant, horizontally scalable system. Right, and so the idea is you don't have to buy big mainframe boxes and run your database on them anymore, right? You buy commodity hardware, and you run your database across many machines. And so what we wanted to give you was flexibility of storing your data in any shape, but give you an expressive query language against that. We wanted to give you scalability across many machines, but give you the consistency of making sure you're reading the data that you've written. And give you the performance, but also give you things like secondary indexes and so on, right, which typically take up space and you take a performance hit. So MongoDB was kind of designed to be best of breed of both relational and NoSQL systems. So getting started with MongoDB is super easy, right? You go and download MongoDB. You can be up and running probably in 30 seconds. Those of you who have downloaded it will probably be nodding your heads, agreeing with me. What we did actually a while back was we introduced a new system called MongoDB Cloud Manager. And so Cloud Manager is effectively a tool for monitoring, backing up, and automating your MongoDB deployments. So what you can imagine is as the first stage of the life cycle for deploying a MongoDB application, you come into Cloud Manager and you say, OK, I want to build a 3-node replica set, right? And so with Cloud Manager, it's all automation. You just click, 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 3 nodes, deploy. And it will go and deploy that either in your local data center or in AWS, really, wherever you defined. Then once it's up and running, it starts monitoring your instances. And it monitors the MongoDBs themselves. So at the host level, you're getting metrics in about the kind of page faults that are happening in the database, the memory usage, then underneath whether there's any disk I/O and so on. All of this is being tracked in Cloud Manager. And then effectively, you can do things like backup in there as well. So the idea is basically give you a frictionless deployment of MongoDB. What we'd had is people that were using MongoDB and Cloud Manager. It's a great combination. Feedback coming from customers, and I must say, as a product manager, we base probably 90% of our roadmap decisions on feedback from the community, feedback from users of MongoDB. And in particular, what we'd heard was New Relic, New Relic, New Relic. And people are using New Relic to monitor their customer experience, going right through the life cycle. And for them, it was, well, these metrics in Cloud Manager are great, but I really want to see them in New Relic, right? And give me like a single pane of glass, a single view to go into. I don't want to have to jump between applications and so on. And so typically what you would have is somebody is observing a problem in New Relic, and then really having to then switch into Ops Manager or Cloud Manager and take a look and drill down whether that was a MongoDB problem, whether something else was going on. And so the switching around, context switching, could be tricky. And so this is where we announce, keeping track of Cooper's count, the 5th announcement is we've been working on integration with MongoDB and New Relic, and in particular with what we call Cloud Manager. And so we have a Cloud Manager API, and we are using that and connecting with New Relic's API. And so any MongoDB deployment is being monitored and managed by Cloud Manager. All of the metrics are being captured by Cloud Manager, and all of those metrics are being streamed and pushed into New Relic's plugins and New Relic's insights. And so what I wanted to do is kind of just take a few minutes and talk about that experience that we had. And so ultimately at MongoDB, what we do is, if as a product manager I get feedback from customers, I then go and have to convince the engineering team, this is what we need to do, and this is the direction we need to take, and I'll write a scope document, and that gets ratified and becomes a spec, and typically the life cycle of that is a few weeks, and then kind of try and plan engineering time around it, and it can be 3 months before something happens. And so what I decided to do was I was going to take a look at how we actually go about implementing that ourselves. And so I loaded up the New Relic API documentation, and I started reading through. And actually, their documentation is fantastic, right? And I started writing effectively a proof of concept, and I did it in about 4 hours. I sat down, read through the documentation, having no prior background of New Relic too much, or the API, and just read through it, and a bit of Ruby code, and 4 hours of time, and I had a working prototype. And actually, I mean, this is the code. This was my prototype code. I guess I don't know if you can see too clearly. This is pretty much it. It's less than 50 lines of code. And effectively, all it was doing was posting to the API with a license key, given it a certain set of HTTP headers, and then like a JSON payload. Right? And obviously, for MongoDB, that ties in really nicely. We work in JSON. Our API serves out JSON. So it was really just writing connective tissue. It was super quick, super simple. And actually, the kind of the main bulk of the code is here. And this is just sending metrics. And so these are the metrics I was posting from Cloud Manager over. And I mean, I sat down in a meeting with the engineers. And guys, we don't need a spec, or we don't need a scope. Like, I think I've done it. So we just check the code in. That's all we needed to do, really. I mean, they're going to tidy it up and so on. But effectively, what we now have, if you are, by show of hands, who's in Cloud Manager, actually, for MongoDB? A few of you, yeah. So you can go in now, effectively, to Cloud Manager, paste in your Cloud Manager, your New Relic license key into Cloud Manager, and we'll start sending metrics. Right? And so actually, what the important part of this is, this whole process, is this is entirely frictionless. You don't have to go and install anything in New Relic at this point. We just start sending metrics into plugins, and they will start appearing, right? And so here's an example of some metrics being shown appearing into Cloud Manager, into New Relic from Cloud Manager. I just wanted to highlight as well a few things. So, on the left-hand side, you've got all the things you're used to seeing in MongoDB. So you've got dashboards for lock percentage, you've got dashboards for memory, dashboards for network, and so on. You've got high-level dashboards that tell you per host. You can model sharded clusters in this thing. And you can set alerts on recent events. So maybe your page faults are climbing too high. Maybe your user asserts are climbing too high. Right? All of that can be set in here and is pre-packaged as a dashboard from MongoDB. So you don't have to do anything. All you need to do is paste your license key in, and all of this starts appearing in your dashboard. What was particularly cool as well, actually, and was something that we'd never seen before, is the insights stuff, right? So we're also posting to the insights API. And there's a different API to the plugin API. We're sending the same server metric data over, plus one or two other extra things that we couldn't send to plugins that lets us slice and dice in really interesting ways. And so for us, I put together a bunch of dashboards that I thought may be interesting for people. Things like, how has your storage size in the database increased over the last week? And for me, that's really interesting because either you're on to the next YouTube or something horrible has happened if you've doubled or tripled the size of your database over a course of 1 week. So in this case, DB storage size is up at the top. We're actually down 3.17%, user churn and so on. Uptime could be really interesting to understand which hosts are actually the flakiest, whether you need to replace or strip out a box in the set. Version lists, which host is the busiest. So if you're in a sharded environment, for example, maybe you have a bad shard key, you picked a route that's going through the same server every time. It's interesting to know if you've got a hot shard here. And then, of course, you can model all of the existing Cloud Manager metrics in there as well. So we're super excited about the ability for you guys to go and drill down and slice and dice these metrics. And for us, it makes great sense to give you a single pane to go into. We know you guys are familiar with, obviously, New Relic plugins and insights, and you're used to using those and building those things. There was an example query that we used to model the storage increase there in NRQL. So it's just a select average storage size from MongoDB, where stats are DB stats and compare with 1 hour ago, right? So if you did want to put some kind of dashboard like that up on there, really simple, quick, and easy to write. So that was basically what I wanted to show you. Just as a summary, I mean, it's easy to get going with this thing. Check the documentation online for New Relic. I found it very easy to go through. Built this thing very quickly. Entirely frictionless to install this, by the way. So it's still in beta at the moment. It hasn't been officially released into Cloud Manager. If you are interested in getting beta access to get that plugin or insights metrics being posted in to your New Relic account, then contact. And there's a contact address here is 3.2beta@mongodb.com. And that will come through to me and my team, and we can sort you out for a beta. So I'm going to pass it back over to Cooper. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. So what a terrific example of the power of the New Relic platform, the ease of integrating, the off-the-shelf opportunity for you as MongoDB users to get this with a couple of copy and paste of keys, but also as a demonstration of your potential integration process. Oh, you've got an idea, a problem that needs solving? Yeah, check out the API Explorer. Hey, it's easy. Don't write specs, just write some quick code, and it just works. You'll have your data inside of New Relic plugins, inside of New Relic Insights. In other parts of New Relic, you'll have custom attributes that you'll be using for slicing and dicing error events, like we heard about yesterday in Lou's keynote. You've learned about the breadth of off-the-shelf integrations that you can try. This brand new one for MongoDB, 220 other integrations. And you've learned how MongoDB took our APIs and brought them together for operational insights. Hopefully it's inspiring you to do the same. I encourage you to go forth and integrate. Try out an existing integration. Just try one. Look at the list, pick one you think you'll like, give it a shot. You'll get inspired, you'll build something of your own using our API Explorer, help you understand what to do, and this will extend your New Relic platform into your stack, into your processes, into your business, eventually empowering you to deliver better experiences for your customers, your partners, and really help make software make the world a better place. Together, we can help make New Relic platform your own. Thanks very much for sticking around. We'll take questions down here below the stage afterwards.